Welcome, coding and robotics students, to part 2 of this video. So in the last video we just included some sound. We'll just run the program again. You can see we have music, we have the colors on our backdrop changing, and we have our dinosaurs switching between two separate costumes to look as though they're dancing. In this particular one, we are going to move our dinosaurs around a little bit. So they're on the dance floor, they've got some good dance moves, but we're going to move them around. We're going to look at dinosaur number 2. And we're going to look at dinosaur number 2, and we're going to add the following script to dinosaur number 2. We're actually going to move the dinosaur around. We will create a new event. And again, you can have multiple small, tiny little programs happening at the same time. So just because I've started one program here, which is changing the costume, I can have another program running at the same time that's doing something different. And that's what's going to happen here. We're actually going to move my dinosaur around, and we're just going to move him 10 steps. And in Scratch, what happens is you can notice that there are coordinates that are right here, and they're x, y. So you have to kind of imagine that right in the middle, and I'll try to get to the middle, or as close to as I can. And the middle is going to be identified as 0, 0. So right about there, I'm a little bit off, but right there is the middle of the stage that you're seeing here. And, excuse me, and then everything that to the right of that is going to be a positive x value. Everything up from that is going to be a positive y value. Everything to the left of there is going to be a negative x value. And everything below that is going to be a negative y value. So when we talk about 10 steps, we're talking about 10 Scratch steps. So in this case, not actual dinosaur steps, but 10 Scratch steps. And so as you learn more about Scratch, you'll get an idea of how far different steps are. So you may want to increase it to 100 or 150 or 1,000, depending on what it is you're actually doing. So I'm going to leave it at move 10 steps. Because I'm in this forever loop, he'll keep moving 10 steps, keep moving 10 steps. But when there's another command that we're going to use, and it's called if on edge bounce. And what that'll do is that will keep the dinosaur from moving off the edge of this screen so that we don't see him anymore. Okay, now one of the other things that I just want to show you is that we can just get some extra information about this dinosaur, and we can see a few things. And what we want to do is, we don't want, so there's rotation style here. We don't want the dinosaur going up and down and up and down. Okay, so that is what we're going to put in there. So let's take a look at what happens here when we run this. And so you can see our dinosaur bounces back and forth, but stays upright, which is what we want there. So that's kind of a neat trick to make sure. If I actually take that off, watch what happens to our dinosaur here. So rotation style is now this one here, and when I run it, you'll see that he goes upside down. So just a quick little click of that back and forth arrow, and that will keep our dinosaur upright. Now the next little set of commands, it's going to get a little bit more difficult. So I mentioned it's going to get a little bit more difficult. However, this is some important stuff for computer programming. In life, we always have choices. We can do this or we can do that. We can have an orange or an apple. And sometimes you might have your mom say to you, if you do your chore, then you'll get to play a video game. If you don't do your chore, then you have to stay in your bedroom and you don't let to play that video game. Computer programming has some similar type of choices that we get to make. And what they're called is if-then loops. And these loops are really, really important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2 of them into my forever loop. And so we have loops and loops, which can get confusing. But once you get the hang of it, it's actually quite important, quite interesting, and quite powerful. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to put this. You'll notice that these little, I don't even know what shape they are. These 6-sided shapes, so we'll call them hexagons. They fit into that small space within the if-then loop. And you'll notice that it kind of gets colored there, kind of this halo effect, and I can drop it in there. So what we're going to do is, if I press the right arrow, we want something to happen. And if I press the left arrow, I want something to happen as well. And so what I want to have happen is I want my dinosaur to move in that direction that I'm pressing. So if I move to the right, I want my dinosaur to point 90 degrees. And that's the way that he's actually facing right now, is to the right. However, if I want my dinosaur to point in the other direction, then we're going to call it negative 90 degrees. These are things that you'll just get to understand over time as you use the program. And if I'm moving him right, I want him to move right 10 steps. And if I'm moving him left, I want him to move left 10 steps. And so what this allows us to do is actually have keyboard control of that dinosaur. So here's what will happen. So I'm going to hit the green flag. Dinosaur number 2, who's in the middle here, he's going to bounce back and forth. We've seen how that happens already. And we're just going to run this one, actually. I'm just going to click this. And so that's running right now. I know that it's running because you can see on the outside here, it's got that yellow halo effect on it. And now, you're not going to be able to see this, but I'm going to press the left and right key, and you'll see that my dinosaur moves left and right. You'll notice, however, when he's going left, he's upside down. So we need to do that same command we just did a minute ago. Click on the eye, which is on there, and we're going to change that rotation so he's like this, and now you can see that he's that his head is facing the roof and his feet are facing the floor here, and now I can move him back and forth. Okay, and again, that's me using the left and right keys on my keyboard. So some pretty amazing stuff there. Again, it happens in this loop forever. So all the time, the computer is asking itself, is the right key being pressed? If the answer to that is yes, then it's going to point in the right direction, 90 degrees, and move 10 steps. If the left key is arrow key is being pressed, then it's going to do the opposite. It's going to point in the point to the left, negative 90 degrees, and it's going to move 10 steps. So if I'm holding those, it will just keep asking that. And again, it's moving so quick. So it'll say, am I moving to the left? Yes, I am, 10 steps. And I'll just keep asking those questions. And that's why it looks like the dinosaur is gliding left and right. Okay. So, and that's what you have to kind of work on, is being able to look at a series of commands and know what it is that they're going to do. That might be an assignment that we have later on where I put a series of commands on a page for you. So I might copy and paste this command right here, and you're going to need to be able to write out for me what it is that command is doing. And that's going to really show that you have a really good understanding and a really good grasp of Scratch. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to add a ballerina into this party. And so in order to do that, we're going to add a sprite, and I can click on the little sprite icon there, choose from the library, and here's our ballerina right there. And so now we have a fourth sprite that's in this particular program. We're going to move her right up front so everybody can see her. And again, you can see that this ballerina has a number of costumes. We're looking at ballerina D here, but she's got kind of a jumping splits, or I guess she could be just doing the splits on the ground. Ballerina B here, she's doing a plie of some sort. I think that's what they're called. And ballerina A, she's just sort of standing there. So in this particular program, what we're looking to do is make a little bit of a dance routine for the ballerina. And she is going to switch between pose A, costume A here, and costume D. And we've kind of done this before when we created the two-step dance moves for the dinosaurs. Again, we're going to do a two-step dance move for the ballerina. Now what we're going to do here, instead of using that forever loop, we just want her to do this 3 separate times. So a little bit different. And we're going to have her switch between costume A. So I'm going to change that up between costume A. And we're going to also have her switch to costume D. And again, we add some wait time in here just so that we can see what it is that's happening. And it's going to be 0.5 seconds. And 0.5 seconds. And I'm just using the keyboard in order to change those times. So what we want to do here, so we've made a small little routine here. I can show you what it looks like. I'll just click on this guy here. And you can see that 3 times she does this little routine. We're going to add something a little bit different to it. We're going to have her, she's actually going to do this next little routine, part of this routine twice. And she's going to go from costume A. So she's going to go from costume A to costume B. And again, we're going to put some wait time in there so that we can see what it is that's happening. At half a second. And now we have a completed dance routine. Again, if we only have this in there once, what will happen if we just leave it like this? 3 times she'll switch from costume A to D. And when she's done that, so it'll go through 3 times. It'll go through once, twice, 3 times. Then it will leave that loop, enter this loop, and twice it will go costume A, costume B, costume A, costume B, and then it would end because there's nothing else. So what we can do is take a forever loop. We can actually put these 2 loops into a forever loop. And now it will, forever and ever and ever, it'll repeat this one 3 times, leave that loop, repeat this one twice, leave that loop, back into the forever loop, which sends it all the way back to the beginning, and it will start this one 3 times again, this one 2 times, back into that loop, and back to the top. And it's through using those loops that we can create a fairly efficient program. We could, in theory, copy this one and that one hundreds of thousands of times to get it to do it over and over again. And our program would probably end before we got to that point. But that would be a ton of work and take a ton of memory. By using this one forever loop, we can have it go forever and ever and ever, and an infinite number of times before it ends.